Hi, I'm Matt Little. I'm the Director of Counselling and Education at Empowering Awareness.Asia, and I'm a proud sponsor of this podcast.
Hi, Chris.
How you doing, Sai? How you doing?
I'm doing great. So, how are you doing?
Very good. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. It's an honor, and I just wanted to thank you, right off the start.
It's a pleasure meeting you. So, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to interview you for my podcast. So, I have gone through a profile. I can see you're doing amazing work. So, I thought to tell about your work to my audience.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate talking to an international audience. And though some of the things I'm going to talk about might be idiosyncratic to my community or the United States, a lot of it is not, and it can be used by people anywhere. And so I appreciate that very much. So a little about myself. I am a fourth generation family farmer in New York State. I am in the lower Hudson Valley, which is about 1 hour north of New York City. And I farm in the referred to as the historic black dirt region. I farm on muckland soils, basically a very highly concentrated, very highly organic soils. It's got a lot of organic matter to it. It was once a cedar swamp and a glacier. And I farm in the area that's basically in the United States, the second largest collection of muck in the U.S. It's the largest under cultivation. The largest overall is the Florida Everglades, but that's still swamp. But it's the largest pocket in under cultivation, and it's got a long history of farming all sorts of crops. It can grow basically everything from artichokes to zucchini, and what it grows the best is weeds. Weeds it grows exceptionally well, which is always a challenge. But my area has been known for growing onions. It was Polish immigrants that came over here for the most part that settled, some German and Italian as well. Many of them the turn of the previous century, including my great grandfather, actually both great grandparents, my dad's side. And the land was cleared, much of it by hand, and then later by machine. And the land was drained, ditches were dug, and a number of different crops were grown, but onions was a primary crop. So my great grandfather, when he came here around 1908, I believe, and he bought a pre-existing dairy farm that dated back to the U.S. Civil War period, which was like the 1860s. And he kind of never left Poland. He never learned the customs. He never learned English. He would like, as he'd walk along the road, he'd pull down his pants and take a leak as cars would go by because he didn't learn the customs as it were. And he kind of did multi-crops. My grandfather, his son, wheedled it down to basically growing onions and carrots, and then my dad eventually monocropped onions. And my dad and brother and I, we farmed together for a number of years, basically until my father passed away from cancer in 2017. My brother and I farmed together another couple of years, and then we kind of split. And I farmed by myself onions for a couple of years with some help from him. And then starting in 2020, in the midst of COVID, I switched my farming model, and instead of growing onions wholesale, being basically a mid-sized farm for my area and selling in the wholesale market, I switched to growing mixed greens and direct to consumer on a much smaller scale. So at the same time, I also was a very good student. I was in school. I started school when I was 4 years old. I went straight through. I went to both undergraduate and graduate school. Undergraduate, I went to a state university of New York up in Cortland. And my degree is in communication studies, basically broadcasting and film studies. And then I did my graduate work at the University of Iowa. I was a graduate student there, and I was a PhD student. I passed my quals, I got my master's, and I kind of took a leave of absence, and I didn't go back. I intended to, but it just didn't work out. But my degree at Iowa was also in broadcasting and with a minor emphasis in film. My areas of expertise are Saturday Night Live, and believe it or not, and also James Bond. And I was the man who wrote most of the early screenplays for the James Bond movies, Richard Mayerbaum, was a University of Iowa graduate. So I was the only person there at the time who knew anything about James Bond, basically. I passed my quals. I kind of got burnt out a little bit. I went through school starting at age 4, and I met my future wife there. She was from Wisconsin, not from a farming background. We got married in 1990, and we lived in Wisconsin for 3 years afterward. And I had an office job working for a pharmaceutical company. I couldn't get a job. It was the market was saturated at the time I was looking for work in the field of like either film or the like, or television and that sort of thing. So I worked at pharmaceutical companies, and I would spend my lunchtimes looking at the guys mowing the lawn, and I would wish I was outside with them. So I kind of cajoled my wife and said, "Do you mind, can we maybe go back to the farm?" And my wife eventually agreed. 93 we moved back. 94 and 95 I farmed part-time, and I also taught at the local community college. I taught public speaking and communication studies. And then starting in 96, I started farming full-time with my father and brother. And that year, we were hit by a massive hailstorm. And our crop was, and not just mine, much of the valley was decimated by hail. When hail hits onions when they're bulbing, and those of your listeners who happen to be from onion growers, like anywhere in the world, will know when a hailstone cuts into an onion top, and either rainwater, liquid, and soil gets into that bulb or into that onion. There's nothing that can stop. There's no spray. There's no chemical that can stop what's going to eventually happen, which is it's going to decay. And we had a massive loss. And I was one of the few farmers in the area that actually had a college degree. I wasn't the only one, but I was one of the few ones. And I kind of got drafted into being the advocate for the area to fight for disaster aid. In the United States, there is a federal crop insurance program that's wholly owned company owned by the United States Department of Agriculture, and it's provided to farmers at a reduced cost. Though the farmer, when he or she does the buy-up coverage, they do pay a significant premium, but it is somewhat reduced. The coverage is not, let's just say, not the greatest in the world, and because of that, I was kind of like asked to like represent the growers to try and get a disaster aid program, and that is a lot of people have, at least in the United States, and I think in other areas, they think that the farmers support it and so on and so forth, and it's not the case. The bulk of farm programs in the United States that benefit farmers, which are known as program crops, or the oil seeds: corn, wheat, cotton, rice, and the oil seeds. And these programs go back to the New Deal, when these programs were created. They were part of the agricultural programs, part of the New Deal. What's known as specialty crops, fruits and vegetables and the like, even though we were responsible for a much greater percentage of the sales, there's very few programs for it. So getting disaster aid wasn't an easy thing. And then the following years, 98, we had another massive hailstorm. 99, we had a drought we were part of, that was up and down the eastern seaboard. And in 2000, we had another a kind of flood year. So over that period, my wife and I, we worked on both reforming the federal crop insurance program for the onion policy, and to try and get a supplemental disaster aid provision for our area. And my wife and I put about 5 years of effort into it. We worked extensively with our elected officials on all levels of government, but primarily on the federal level. Our congressman in particular was a man by the name of Ben Gilman, Representative Ben Gilman, and our senators. And at the time, at first it was Pat Moynihan and Al D'Amato, and eventually became Chuck Schumer and Hillary Clinton, and then Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand. But at the time, that 5 years, it was for that. And we were able to eventually, Ben was able to secure for us a $10 million earmark that was only for the onion growers of our area for the 5 years that we fought for. And it was part of the 2002 Farm Bill. I worked on other issues as well. I worked on labor issues. I worked on conservation programs. a wide range of issues, but the primary issues was the federal crop insurance program. So I also developed strategies and worked a lot extensively with the media. So that's part of what enabled us to get what we wanted, was being able to use the media to get our message out and to build support for it. Then eventually we worked with again, a number of issues locally, from changing our speed limit in front of our house, I should say, to again, labor, both state labor laws and federal labor laws, and like I said, conservation and just other programs. Eventually, I developed a program called Farm to Food Bank, which is a program encouraging the government to basically work with farmers to get more monies out to enable food recovery programs to purchase farm products directly from farmers. And that program is poised to get into the next farm bill, if the next farm bill ever passes, if they ever get it in, which has kind of been a frustrating thing. And then I got a debt provision proposal that was put into it was supposed to be in Build Back Better. It was supposed to be actually even before that, and eventually got into the Inflation Reduction Act. So I've been doing a number of years doing the policy work along with the farming, and now I've kind of trying to develop some college classes and lectures that I'm looking to be able to share with people the skills and such that I've learned. So that's a very long-winded thumbnail sketch of some of the stuff that I work on and do.
So what made you to do what you're doing?
Well, good question. Basically, one was, we needed the assistance. I mean, when we were wiped out in '96, it was a devastating situation. Onions, as any of your viewers in India will tell you, or anywhere, is a very expensive crop to grow. In the United States, to grow of acre onions, just your input cost, just your costs of your seed, your pesticides, your fertilizer, and your labor. Just those four things. Not talking your cost of your land, if you're renting, repairs, fuel, taxes, none of those things. Just seed, chemical, labor, and fertilizer. To grow an acre of onions from seed, direct seed, is between $3,000 and $5,000, and transplants is between $5,000 and $7,000 at least. And that's just those production expenses. So it's a very expensive crop to grow. So when you're wiped out by a weather disaster, you're left with, it's kind of like, as I mentioned in a documentary that was done about my wife and I, it's like not just losing your job, but it's also losing everything in your bank account as well. It's devastating. So something had to be done. And, I was one of the few people that had the skills and the knowledge, to be able to do it. So, you have, there's a great, in my unpublished memoir I wrote, I have a section in the chapter that deals with this. There's a great line from, if you're familiar with it or not, but the fourth Die Hard movie with Bruce Willis, where he plays John McClane, and he's talking to the kid. I can't think of the character's name, but he's talking to the software guy who worked on the stuff that was the protagonist or the villain has been used and such. And the kid's like, why do you do it? And he says, basically, John McClane says, because there's no one else to do it. I don't do what I'm doing as far as heroic stuff or trying to save things or whatever like that because I want to necessarily. It's because there's no one else to do it. And I happen to be that person because I'm the person that can, and because I can, I have to. And that's kind of my motto has been as well. So if I can do things first and foremost, if I can do things to help people, I have to do it. I have to try and do what I can. And that's always my goal, always is, whether it be to secure disaster relief, make a change to a program that benefits farmers, whatever like that, or, help people learn how to do the strategies or employ the strategies that I've used. It's for the goal of helping people. And that's what I really do enjoy. That I do. It's part of what makes me tick is I want to help people. So and again, it's whether or not it's the policy work or like appearing in, we'll talk about later, the documentary that's about my wife and I that deals with farmer depression and suicide. The reason I, did that, appeared in it, because they're very sensitive things to talk about, is because if it could help somebody, you have to do it. I have to do it. And, just like I look at what you're doing, I mean, you're extending yourself and spending time like that in getting messages out that helps people out. And I admire that a great deal. That's, the world needs more people like you. And that's how I kind of look at it. So that's why I do it.
So from years, you're doing this. So what you have understood and what you want to say to the world.
Okay. Well, one of the things I've been working on, presentations regarding like the policy and advocacy, and I've been giving them to some colleges. I've given it to a few, and I've developed courses. I haven't done the courses yet, but I've developed courses on it. But the primary theme of it is, and the pitches I made for people, and if any of your viewers are interested in hiring me to speak, I'm very happy to do this. And because and this is I talk about this in terms of a United States audience, but this applies across the world. People feel today that very disempowered, or very what can I'm a dirt farmer. What can I possibly do to affect change? How do I compete against these corporations, or how do I compete against these forces, these oligarchs or whatever, and who are fighting to get, or work, not even to fight, they get what they want, and how do I get what I need, if I need something changed, or so on and so forth. And, in many cases, like the United States, in a lot of ways, the system is corrupt. And there's, no doubt about that. And there's a lot of, pay to play, and money is a big aspect of, the process and the like. But that being said, it's not absolute. If you are, and I'm not being Pollyannish and saying, like the American dream, and if you work hard, you're going to get what you want. That's crap. I mean, that's not the case. I mean, there's people that, work hard and whatever like that and get nowhere and live and die in poverty and pain. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But if you can learn these skills and the like, at least it gives you a fighting chance to be able to get accomplished whatever you may need to do, whether that be getting a road fixed by you, or getting a speed limit changed, up to getting major pieces of legislation or policy. I've testified before the United States Senate in 2010. In the hearing on the first hearing the Senate held on reauthorizing the Farm Bill. I was part of that first hearing to deal with the Farm Bill, the new Farm Bill. We've gotten, like I said, that earmark it was a very unique earmark as part of the '02 Farm Bill. My wife and I got a conservation program in the House version, a $250 million program that was for muck soils. It didn't pass. It didn't have a champion on the Senate side, but we got it in the House version. We did all these things, and as I mentioned this, and I'm not a PAC. I've done I've done no fundraisers for these legislators. I've done no rallies to get votes for them or anything like that. I've done none of that. I am, for the most part, no one's paid me. I've gotten no pay for what I've done over the years, my wife and I. And yet we've got all these things accomplished. And you have to ask how. Well, first off, if you have a really good, legitimate, righteous issue, number one, and then you have the ability to effectively tell your story, and to be, passionate about it, and also to be, and you're aggressive, and you don't give up. You're like the Energizer Bunny. You keep going and going, and you're a good communicator and the like, and you put yourself out. And if you can effectively frame your story and put these things together, you can accomplish these things. And again, I'm not being like some like pie in the sky person, but the bottom line is my wife and I have gotten these things accomplished, and we haven't done those things. And I'll tell you, this is the truth. In all the years and the things that my wife and I have worked on over the years, we've worked with legislators and elected officials and the like, from on the local level in the United States, your county governments, your town governments, to state representatives, to the federal government, the national government. And not once have I had a elected official say to me, well, you better do a fundraiser for me, or you better do, this for me. There's never been a quid pro quo ever attached to what we worked on and done. And it's always been, those legislators have done those things because, we've done an effective job of presenting it as being something that, is something that's a good, worthwhile issue for them to work on. And we've been able to present it in that way, and we've been able to build support for it in the public. And primarily, one of the primary way is getting the media focused their attention on it. And if you can do those things in such a way, you can affect change. And again, it doesn't mean it's going to work every time. And we've had, for all the successes, we've had plenty of failures where things didn't happen the way we wanted to go. But we've had significant accomplishments. And these strategies and the like are becoming more and more important as the world is changing. Especially like in the United States, there's a lot more, the population, citizens are becoming, whether it be in the MAGA movement or on the progressive side or whatever, people are becoming more and more involved and trying to become more and more involved in issues and the like. And in a lot of cases, at least here, these things aren't taught, unfortunately, in schools and in that way. So they don't know what to do or how to go about doing it. So, and I can tell you from my experience early on, I would go to grower meetings and such, and these things were never talked about. It was never, this is stuff that, we learned, my wife and I learned in many cases on the fly. We didn't, for example, I'll give you one example. We pushed our congressman early on, to drop a bill for our appropriation for our onion money, for our disaster aid. And we pushed them, and eventually they did. And they dropped a bill, and a bill was introduced into Congress in the House side. And it went nowhere. And what we didn't realize is that to get a measure like that, it has to be an appropriation measure. And so it has to be attached to an appropriation bill. And there's a whole process involved with that. And basically the congressman's office humored us. And we wasted about 6 months' time on it. My wife and I did, without realizing what the process was. Now we know where you don't, that's not, if you need an appropriation, you don't go, your congressperson had them do a, standalone bill on the floor of the House. You're not going to get money that way. It has to be an appropriation measure. So knowing that now has changed as far as how we would go about it. And again, the average person doesn't know that. They don't know how the process works. And so if I can, share with people, what to do, how to go about it, I think it's a good thing. And again, it's strategy. Now, granted, how the government in, say, India or Japan or the Congo or whatever, there's a lot of differences to it. A lot of differences how the government's structured, the parliament system, blah blah blah. But the basic aspects of what we do is fundamentally the same, and it can really definitely help people. So that's what the goal we want to do.
And what are the solutions that you have?
Okay, that's good. Question 2. One thing is, we have to, and I see this I look at the news stories in India going on now, and there's a lot of issues regarding farmer suicide, and a lot in terms of onions. I mean, it's funny to see, funny not haha, but funny, ironic, or interesting, in that when I read the stories, many of the things expressed by the farmers there are very similar to what we experience here. Farmers here, and across the board, but fruits and vegetables, we get a very small part of the retail dollar in the United States. The United States has one of the cheapest food supplies in the world. People spend less than 10% of their disposable income it's been historically around that on food. And this is all result of going back to the Great Depression in the 1930s, when you had in the United States, you had a lot of poverty, you had a lot of hunger, you had bread lines. When they came up with the New Deal and the programs that was part of the New Deal, they wanted to make sure that it would never happen again. So they designed the system that people would never be hungry again. But what's happened is you have a system where, and I have a piece I wrote called Unsustainable Disparities that ran in Albany is the state capital for New York. I ran in the Albany Times-Union a few years ago. And I'll have to send it to you so you can see a PDF version and a link to it. But basically, in the piece, I talk about how when I would sell a bag of onions, the seed company rep got paid, the chemical guy got paid, the guy who repaired my machine got paid, the municipalities I paid taxes to got paid, my laborers got paid, all down, the grocery store, when they sold the onions, they made money, the repacker made money. Quite often the only person who wouldn't make money would be me. And that's just not sustainable. It's not right that I would do basically on my end, 80, 90% of what was involved to get that onion to the shelf was done by me, but I was only getting pennies on the dollar for that. And that's something that's universal. You can see it in other parts of the world. And farmers are getting too little of the dollar, of that retail dollar. They're not getting their fair share, basically. And we take the bulk of the risk, especially, risk in terms of like with the weather, with the market, physical risk. I mean, farming is a very dangerous occupation. It's considered in the United States one of the most dangerous occupations, dealing with chemicals or equipment and that sort of thing. And it's such a poor return. So few farmers' children are going into it. The average age of a farmer in the United States is like 55, I think it is, or 56. This isn't sustainable. We have to come up with, we have to change the system so that the farmer gets more of that retail dollar. And in situations that occur when that doesn't happen, then the government has to step up and has to fairly compensate us and help us. It's not fair. And then, like in the documentary, I made reference to this. I would get in discussions with people who would like tell me how they would say that the government is subsidizing us, and I would say to them, "You have that backwards. We're subsidizing you. The whole inflation and the like is based in this country on cheap fuel and cheap food. That's the whole basis of our economy, and it's on our backs that the economy is basically the foundation of the economy is on that cheap food and cheap fuel. You have to breathe every few seconds. You have to have water within every few days. You have to have food every so many weeks. And if you don't have that, you die. It's a basic human need. And we have to make sure that those that are doing this work are fairly compensated. Secondly, we want to make sure that we have as many people as possible doing that work. We don't want to have consolidation where a handful of people are doing our food production. When that happens, you have a handful of entities that are involved with our energy production, and that's not led to to good outcomes in this planet, having that done. We want to see to as many people as possible are involved in doing it. It used to be, of course, historically, the bulk of the population was doing it. Now we've gone with technological advances and the like, now in the United States, less than 1% of the population, I think it's like 1% is involved in food production and farming. 1%. Just at the turn of the previous century in 1900, I think it was between 40 to 60%. It's not good policy-wise to have so few people doing it. So the government needs to recognize and address that we need to structure policies to see to it that as many people as possible are farming, and that farmers are connected with with people, their markets and the like. And when there's a problem, as far as whether it be weather or a market problem, the farmer has helped. When I testified before the Senate years ago, in that hearing, this is 2010, this was under President Obama's administration, and the Secretary of Agriculture was the same one who just left just now, Tom Vilsack, and he was the first person who presented. And he had a thing where he talked about President Obama had a plan. He wanted to create 100,000 new farmers, like when President Clinton created 100,000 new policemen when he was president. And my wife and I we kind of laughed out loud a little bit. That's absurd. And during the hearing, when the four of us farmers were, after we gave our set testimony, when we were then asked it was about an hour or so after the senators asked the panel questions, one of the questions that came up was, what did we think of the Secretary of Vilsack's proposal? And I said to him, instead of trying to come up with a scheme to create 100,000 new farmers, why don't we instead try and make it so that farming is more profitable for those that are already doing it? And then their children will go into it, and you'll automatically create more farmers. And then I got to work, my old professor from college, his name is Bob Thompson. He's now he's director of the Pop Culture Study Center in Syracuse. But he's like, if there's a story about the media and whatever, he's the guru. He's the man you talk to. And he was my mentor at undergraduate and my boss at a program at Northwestern. Brilliant guy. He was very proud of me for this. I then said to them, and when I say, make a living or whatever like that, when I say, make money or whatever like that, I said, I don't want to be, Elmer J. Fudd millionaire and own a mansion and a yacht. I just want to make a living. So I got to work into a Senate testimony, a quote from a very famous Bug Buddy cartoon from the 1950s. So my professor was very proud. My TV professor, studies professor, I got to work that in there. But it's really true. I mean, I'm not looking to be a wealthy man. I live a simple life now. I mean, I live in a very small home that was owned by my father. My father grew up in. It's very small. Led a very simple life. My oldest son, when he went to college, he has full scholarships he got and such. I mean, I'm not living a fancy life, and I don't need fancy, but, I'm just looking to make a living. And my oldest son, Caleb, he's now a civil engineer. He got a full ride scholarship and to study engineering. Went to New Jersey Institute of Technology and he's now an engineer in the city of Chicago. He's a civil engineer in Chicago. He liked farming. He liked the work. He loved driving a forklift like me. He liked driving truck. I love, I'm a smart guy. I like doing, cerebral, things and so on and so forth. But God help me, I love driving tractors. I love driving trucks. I mean, it's fun. I mean, I love doing it. I love being outside. He loved it too, but he saw how his parents lived. And he didn't want to live that way. We basically living like paycheck to paycheck, or in our case, deep in debt. I'm still I think $400,000 in debt to the USDA over various weather disasters. And he didn't want to live that way. And that's a shame. I mean, I was desperate for him to actually follow in my footsteps and farm, but he just didn't want to live a life where he's basically on the edge of poverty and barely hanging on. And, for a vocation or an aspect of life that is so critical. I mean, we have to eat every day. We have to have a good farming industry as part of the economy and the like. As far as national security, we really should do more to protect our farmers. And that principle applies in India and it applies in Canada and applies in Mexico and you name it. We really should be encouraging farmers, having as many farmers as possible, as many smaller farmers as possible, and encouraging their kids to go into it as well.
So what world needs to know from this?
Well, one thing is that farming is a very it's a difficult job. I mean, it's physically demanding. It's very risky, both in terms of financially, weather-wise, and physically. It's a dangerous job. It's got a lot of rewards. I love the lifestyle. I love driving tractors. I love being outside. I love that. But it's very, very difficult. And we need to, society needs to recognize that. That's why I mentioned, I made reference before. That's why my wife and I agreed to be the subjects of the documentary Muckville. And I hope you, put it up on your website. And again, this is something that would hit home in terms of like in India, because there's a large problem in India of farmer suicide. And we have that problem here in the United States as well. And it's now starting to be addressed a little bit. But people need to understand, what kind of pressures and the like farmers are dealing with, and farmers in rural communities. And not that it's, any more important than people in urban areas or like that, but for a long time, at least in the United States, it's been long ignored and not talked about. And when we were asked, in New York, there's a program. We have in the United States, we have what's called the land grant college system, and every state has one of the universities is a land grant college that deals with agricultural instruction and agricultural learning and the like. And in New York, it's Cornell University, and that's where you have what's called the extension system, and every state has it. In New York, it's the Cornell Cooperative Extension System, and then these offices exist throughout the state, and they help farmers with educational training, how to improve growing but also business things and the like, how to be better at selling and marketing your crop, and how to deal with crop insurance, or, all these things. And one of the programs in New York is unique to New York, is called FarmNet. And FarmNet's a program through Cornell that helps farmers with a number of different issues and the like. One of them was, we first availed them of, they helped us set up our farm in a trust so as to protect our assets in case of what eventually happened. In our case, my father died, my mother developed dementia, she needed round-the-clock care, and without having that farm protected, we would have lost everything to the government. The government would have taken everything from us in order for my mom to get care. FarmNet also helped us later in mediation with family members to work together. They help you with, later on, we avail themselves of that. Later, they also helped my wife and I with, as far as when we decided we no longer wanted to farm wholesale onions anymore, that wasn't sustainable. They helped us to transition, to come up with different, they actually sent 2 reps, 1 rep to help us with, as far as what kind of the crops to grow and that sort of thing. And the other person was to help us deal with the mental issues. The emotional and mental well-being. So they were contacted by a documentary filmmaker named Jeff Mertz, and he was interested in doing a project on the farmer, because getting more attention. It was around 2019, I believe, there was an article in the Washington Post about a farmer who committed suicide, and there was more coverage of this has been coming out. And so he presented this to do this documentary short I did. And so then he contacted me because FarmNet recommended us, and he said, would you mind being the subject of this? And I have to, just to backtrack a second. When we did the lobbying over the years for the disaster aid and the things like that, I was very forthright and open about things that people don't like talking about publicly, like finances and like in debt. Like I mentioned to you how much I'm, and when I would fight for the disaster aid, I would be very clear. This is how much money I've lost. This is how much money I owe. This is what the costs are. And, people are very private in most cases. Like, my wife hated it. Oh my God, the fights that we had over it. Because it's embarrassing. And she would be very embarrassed by it. She didn't like it. But she recognized the point I made to her, which was, if you want to get the people to be on your side, to understand your issue, to empathize with you, you have to tell the whole story. You have to make it real to them. An abstract saying, I'm hurting, or I have a loss, doesn't mean anything. But when you say, I just lost a crop that was worth $400,000, that cost me $200,000, and I can't pay my loan back, that carries different weight to them than it does just saying, I have a loss. And my wife understood that. So going back to the documentary, obviously talking about this. And I should also mention, when we were fighting for the disaster aid years ago, when we eventually got the earmark, PBS had a series called The Farmer's Wife. And it was like, I think maybe it was 1 year, 13-part series about a husband and wife. And I think they had kids who farmed like in Minnesota or something. And some aspects of it was very similar to my wife and I. And they struggled. And then at the end of the series, they actually had a good year, and they kind of turned it around. It was painful for my wife to watch. I mean, it was so close to home. It was painful. But when you watch that, you really got an understanding of what they were dealing with. So, I said to my wife, I was like, I really would like to do this because, I can maybe convey what we're experiencing, like, and then the public can see that, and also other farmers can too, and say, listen, there's nothing to be ashamed of in talking about this. It's not something you should be ashamed of. Having a mental illness issue or depression and the like. When you have a cold, you take medicine for it. When you have, you have an infection, you take medicine for it. And when you have an issue like this, you take medicine for it. Whether that medicine be actual physical medicine or it be counseling, like you address it and you try, treat it. So I said, this is, we've had these experiences because I had gone through, serious thoughts of suicide, after my father's passing. And then, as I transitioned away from onions. I mean, it's hard to explain in 10 seconds, in a minute or two, but when you do something, I started working on our farm when I was 5 years old. And, I started driving tractors and trucks when I was 11. It was an integral part of me. It was the fabric of my existence. Even when I was away from it only for like basically a couple of years, I dreamed about it every day. I mean, it was who I was, it was my identity. And in just basically a short period of time, it was gone. And it was very, very hard to deal with and accept. And I went through a very bad period where I contemplated suicide. And then with talking to the counselors with FarmNet and also I had a therapist and taking medication, taking antidepressant medication. All those things helped me get past that. So, I said to Eve, if we can tell a story, maybe we can help others as well. So, I misunderstood the filmmaker, Jeff. I thought we were one subject of a long film. I didn't realize it was short. So he interviewed us over a period, a few times. He came out, where he actually interviewed me, and then he got some B-roll footage. And when he came out for the last round of interviews, my wife refused to do it. She said, I've done this. I've been down this road. She said, I'm done. She said, I don't want to do this anymore. You do it. I'm not going to stop you. God bless, whatever. And then Jeff kind of was like, can you talk to her? And if you go to my YouTube channel, and you go one of the first videos I uploaded, you'll see my wife when we were on CNN we were on national television a few times. And we were on CNN a couple of times. Actually, we were on CNN 3 times together. And my wife makes the story. I mean, my wife is like, she cries in the one piece, and she's just, the emotion and the empathy is so raw and real. So I went and he interviewed me in the barn. And I come to the house. I'm like, listen, Jeff would like to talk to you. Can you just talk to him? And I begged her, and she's all right. So he came in, he set up, and he interviewed her. And when you watch the documentary, my wife is the star of the documentary. She makes it. I mean, you really grasp from her, her humanity, her empathy, her kindness, and the struggles we faced. And she really makes it. And it was funny because she agreed to the interview, and then we didn't hear from Jeff for about a year, I think it was. And then in September of 2023, he called me. He said, he said, the movie's done, and he says, the documentary's done, he said, and it's going to premiere at the Woodstock Film Festival next month. Would you like to come see it or attend the premiere? And he says, oh, yeah, sure. And he said, let me send you the trailer. And he sends a trailer, and it's called Muckville. And it just shows my wife and I in the trailer. And I call him up. I said, this looks great, but where's the rest of it? Because I thought it was like a long film, and we were only a small part of it. He says, there is no rest of it. It's just about you and your wife. It's like, oh my God. And so like we didn't see the film actually until it actually premiered at the Woodstock Film Festival. So my wife and I are sitting there going, oh my God, what did we say? We're trying to rack our brains. Hope we didn't say anything stupid or embarrassing. I hope we don't, whatever. Jeff is an amazing filmmaker and storyteller. I mean, anybody out there is looking for a documentary filmmaker, hire this guy. I mean, he is amazing. And we watched it and we started crying during it. And, the last film festival it played at was a film festival, Orange County Film Festival, Orange County, New York, in Warwick, New York. And it won an award picked by actor James Cromwell. And I don't know if you're familiar with James Cromwell, but he was one of his most famous roles, the movie Babe, about the talking pig. He played the farmer in Babe. He's been in a million roles of this. He played Zephyr Cochrane in Star Trek First Contact. I'm a Trekkie guy, so he picked it for an award, a Best Director film. And he was just blown away by it. One of the things he said to us, the fact that it has no narration in it. It's just the story is told through the shots and then us talking. There is no narration. And he was just like, this is an amazing, amazing film. And it just carries in 19 minutes. It just really, really details and highlights the struggle and story of what we're dealing with. And we're happy that since then it's been picked up and it's been shown by a number of different groups across the country, including a group that's similar to FarmNet called AgriSafe, which is another fantastic organization that helps farmers out in the United States. We think it's something that it could be shown. It's not something that's special in the United States. You could show it in India, in Colombia, and as long as the language is understood, it's something that any audience can benefit from, and that's what we want. We want the public and we want farmers to benefit from it and to be helped, and to get the message out that they we're many cases are struggling and could use help, and any way in which farmers in the rural community could be helped, we're happy about that.
So your message is sent already. So at last, as a farmer, as a person who is working for a while in this profile, so what's your observation about my work? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
I haven't, I saw the subject of them. I have to watch them. I am going to watch them. I appreciate, the fact I saw the wide range of different topics and stuff that you're doing. I mean, and again, I can understand if you were like 42, and, the fact that you're 22 and the fact that you're doing that and you're sharing that message around, is so impressive. And again, I work now at a school, a vocational school, it's a VOTEC school, teaching heavy equipment operations like that. And a lot of kids I deal with, they're just like, their concern is, where can I have fun? What can it's not what you're doing. It's not like a concern. You have an empathy and concern for the public and the like. This is not about your self-promotion. It's not about, and I have to, if I was wearing a hat right now, I would take it off to you. Cannot tell you how much I admire and respect that. And the fact that you're 22, that gives me hope. Because that tells me that, it's possible that the world may survive and actually may thrive down the road because there's persons like yourself out there and others who are concerned about, society and their neighbor and making things better and not just worrying about whether or not they can get a beer and, and where can they get next party is and can they get some more sleep. So, I admire and respect that a great deal, my friend.
Oh, I actually did a master's in software engineering, also bachelor's in computer science and engineering. And I'm working right now as a DevOps engineer for a London company from India. So that's my full-time role. Apart from that, I'm like, interviewing experts like you who are working in different industries and who are working for a good cause and for great, for a good purpose for the humanity and create a positive change in the society. So I'm trying to put you people on my platform and trying to tell the world that the world is filled with beautiful people and who are actually changing who are actually making the planet look so beautiful. So
One of those
me
persons is
doing,
you. One of those persons is you because again, the fact that you at being 22 and actually have cognizant of that
I'm
and that
32,
need,
sir.
I mean, having,
32.
I mean, and having an understanding that that need is out there, that's a beautiful thing. Again, I mean, that's not the norm. I mean, but I think though, in seeing a lot of, more stories and such, there's more and more of your generation is like that. And that's really, really impressive and makes me feel better. And I have to thank you for that. That's so impressive. And appreciated by me.
Yeah, that's good. I was about to complete my question. So doing this kind of a work, how this is going to contribute to my career and my future?
Well, again, you know, one of the basic things we have to do every day is eat. We have to eat and we need farmers. And not only do we need farmers, we need food production in as many hands as possible being done. We need the public to be connected with farmers as much as possible. I mean, there was a hearing and I have it on my blog. It was a hearing that was in California about some piece of legislation. I have the clip from YouTube, and there's a woman who was talking about, and I don't want to make fun of her, but she's talking about the vegetable trees and such. And I mean, there are people out there who think like, I swear to God, I've had a produce manager tell me this at a grocery store. They think there's a magic room. I mean, almost like there's like a vat or whatever, and food just comes out of this thing in the back of the facility. They have no concept of what's involved in growing food. They have no concept, no idea, and that's dangerous. That is especially dangerous. We need people to have an increased understanding of that, and then an increased understanding of what the pressures and such that farmers are facing. And if you can share that message, that's vital. And then if the public can then become engaged in that, and then can itself put pressure on the powers that be, legislators, their staff, whatever like that. That we'd like to see this change like that. In India, farmers aren't getting their fair share of what the price of onions are. Well, guess what? Then your government should make adjustments to make sure that happens. They need to address it, and the farmers need to be helped. I mean, it shouldn't be that people are so desperate they're taking their life. That's just not good. Not good in general. And it's not good in terms of society that, this element of society is doing that. So what you're doing in spreading that message, is vitally important. And it's, again, I'm not knocking, I don't know what kind of vacuous TV show you hear, whatever, that's on TV, something, trying to think. I'm not trying to pick on Survivor. I've never watched Survivor. I've seen the commercials, I mean, it's, does watching Survivor, when the show Survivor help out society? I don't know, not that much. People know all about it and stuff. It's important that people know about what's involved in producing food, what's involved with, the kind of pressures that are facing and how, what we can do to change it and improve it. And again, not knocking, for recreation and for blowing off steam, watching an episode of that is, that's fine. But we need to pay a little bit more attention to stuff like you're highlighting. And not just me, but the other issues that you bring out and talk about as well. That's vitally important. And again, you're 22. That's like, it's a mind blower, my friend. I mean, and as a matter of fact, so you were born in.
I'm 32, sir. I'm
What year
32.
you were born in? What year? You were born in.
92.
Well, you're 22.
I'm 32.
Oh, 32. Okay, 32. Well, geez, you look 22. I'm sorry, you look 22. Yeah, my son is 23. He was born in 2002. I mean, wow, man. Whatever you're doing, I want you to send to me. Whatever you're eating, I thought you were 22. Good Lord, you look great. Oh my God, jeez. I wish I looked that good when I was that young. But so even at 32, I mean, the fact that again, at that age, you're concerned about these things. That's not unfortunately that's not the norm. And but I think that's more and more both millennials and Gen Xers, it's much better. It's certainly better than a lot of older people that I know who don't have it. So I do appreciate that. I thought you were 22. I misunderstood you, but man, you look good. I mean, I wish whatever you're doing, email me your diet and your exercise regimen so I can look as good as you do and stay preserved. But you look good. But like I said, I definitely admire and respect all that you're doing. And I'm very honored that you contacted me and asked to talk to me. I am very, very honored by that. I can't say that enough. And especially, I'm always like, I've been interviewed by, I'm a story in the Hindu. I've been in the BBC. I was interviewed once, a story in Japan. I've been on Univision in Spanish television, and I love when international outlets contact me. I think that shows the level of seriousness and importance, and it's a very good feeling. So I definitely appreciate that. And again, if any of your audience members are interested in the things I talked about, like how you go about affecting change like that, I'm available to speak. So I would and share that message. I'd like to help out others.
So can you share your online presence to my podcast listeners so that they can able to connect you and learn and follow you about your work?
Sure. I'll send you. You have it in your you have a written part of your website too, right? Yeah, I'll send you the links to the main way you can. I have a speakers page where you can contact me as far as the speaking. Then I have primary way in which I communicate is through X is number one, and then also I'm on Facebook, and then our garden has a separate Facebook page, and also on Instagram. On Instagram, I have we created a label for selling merch and for our garden, and the label's called the Ornery Onion Company, and we came up with a whole bunch of different sayings and merch that are onion jokes. And so it's things like, cut the crying, careful I'm thin-skinned, when fried add wine, fiery when raw, mellow when baked, stuff like, onion puns and jokes. And we have a page that's devoted to selling the merch, but we have an Instagram page where I, post a lot of the one page I post mostly a lot of different things related to the policy and the farm and cats. I love cats, by the way. And the other page, Garden Mount Adam and Evis, focuses on the garden primarily. But on X, I do the policy, and I do I weather and my Iowa Hawkeyes where I went to college, anything their football and basketball teams, and the policy things and so on and so forth. And cats, like I said, I love cats. And then I have a YouTube channel. And on there, I put, various videos. You can find a lot of the videos, a lot of the news things I was on over the years. So, and then I have a blog, Muckville. And on Muckville, I haven't blogged a lot recently, but historically, you go through it, you'll see I have a lot of the media pieces I've been in over the years. A lot of these I've referenced to, links to a lot of the footage. And then I'll send you the link also you have for the Muckville documentary. People can watch that, by the way. It's to watch the Muckville documentary. It was financed by an organization called Hudsy, Hudsy. And if you go on Google and you type in Hudsy and then Muckville, you'll come up with a link. And it's a great organization. They finance the production of it and they host it. So in order to watch it, you have to register on their website. Registration is free. And they don't spam you. They're very good. They're not like you register and you're going to get 80 million emails from them. You'll get an email from them once every month or something like that. But you can watch the documentary there for 19 minutes. And I really urge people to watch it. And then share it with friends. And maybe show it to groups. I know a lot of farmers here had group gatherings, and they showed it in a group gathering. And I really urge people, if they can, to do that. But again, I have a YouTube channel. I have on the blog Muckville, and you see a lot of my media stuff is on there. And a lot of it's I try and take a humorous aspect. One of the funnier ones is, if you type in the search box and type in Kermit the Frog, you'll see. One time I was in Capitol Hill and I had an encounter with Kermit the Frog. And, I don't want to spoil it, but it was actually not Jim Henson, but it was the guy who replaced Jim Henson after Jim Henson left doing it. He was the puppeteer for Kermit the Frog. And I happened to ride in an elevator with Kermit the Frog. And also in the elevator was also, oh my God, she was in Marnie. Not Marnie. Yeah, Marnie, and she was in, Tippi Hedren. And Tippi Hedren, the actress Tippi Hedren, was in the elevator with us. They were lobbying a group of performers, celebrities like that, were lobbying about, stopping people from having exotic animals, owning a tiger in the United States. And they were on Capitol Hill lobbying. And, we're in the elevator, so with a couple of the farmers, and we were in an elevator in one of the house office buildings, I think Rayburn's, and all of a sudden this guy comes in with Kermit the Frog. And I spaz out over him. I'm like, basically lost my crap over, Kermit the Frog being in the elevator. And then this guy, he says at the end, he goes, yeah, I'm just goofing around. I'm here with Tippi. And then one of the farmers with me goes, as the elevator door, we totally didn't notice you, nothing. And all of a sudden one goes, oh my God, that's Tippi Hedren. I mean, Tippi Hedren is a classic Hollywood starlet. I studied film. What do I notice? I noticed Kermit the Frog. I mean, she's beautiful. I mean, I'm sitting there. I felt bad for her because she was like kind of shrinking down because no one was noticing her, paying attention. We're all looking at the Muppet of Kermit the Frog. And I should have been going gaga over Tippi Hedren, but so I have stories like that on my blog and things like our encounters. Like the time I shook Al Gore's hand, it was soft and buttery and he smelled very fresh. And I have, things like that. So you can read about that and read about some of the experiences we've had. So I'll send you the links but Muckville, if you go muckville.com, I believe is the link for the blog. And then my YouTube channel is at Chris Pawelski. Twitter is at Chris Pawelski, or X now. And Facebook, I think, is the same. Facebook is not as much stuff I post, but I should say I've been posting a lot less. It's been difficult. I had a very bad medical malpractice situation where I was operated on sleep apnea throat surgery and went very badly, and it's been extremely difficult dealing with it. I've had 3 repair surgeries, and it's not. I'm still dealing with the ramifications, including worsened sleep apnea, and I have pre-existing coronary artery disease, and it's something that will probably take my life early, unfortunately. But that's the hand I'm dealt.
Yeah. So I'll put all your links in my website. People who visits my website can able to see your work. And can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Absolutely, I would greatly appreciate it, and then I will share it out to all of my followers and the like, and I would appreciate that actually very much.
Also, can I put this audio and video clip on my podcast, website, internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
Please. The more people that get the message like that, absolutely. I mean, and especially I'm assuming your audience is very international. I am very excited about that. Please do. I was going to actually ask you to do that. So please, that would be awesome. And if you could share with me anytime you share it, I will share it, the links. I will share it out to it. Yeah, please. I mean, actually, if you would, anything you'd like me to share, any other kind of interviews, like you think that my audience is more targeted, but share with me, and I will share the links to my audience. Absolutely.
Definitely. Thank you very much again, Chris, for your valuable time and sharing your experiences and talking about your work and telling us about what you are doing and how you are making things happen and how your work is helping humans and the solutions that you told, how it is going to impact and change, the people's lives. Thank you very much again for the opportunity.
I thank you, Sai. Thank what you're doing and the fact that you're taking the time and effort and sharing this message and such and doing what you do. It gives me a lot of hope, and I want to thank you. I mean, the world needs more people like you, and I appreciate it so much. And I just want to thank you as well. I'm kind of blown away you actually asked me to do this. I'm very honored by it.
Thank you, Chris. Take care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.